Are we live? Yes.
Yes.
So
But no one's watching
we
this, so
don't
let's
we
wait
don't
for
have
like.
anyone. Yeah. So we'll obviously wait for like 5-10 minutes, and then we'll see as soon as people start coming in, we'll start talking. Thank you both of you though. There was a mix-up in dates, Isha. मुझे लगा था Sunday को Saturday is 26, but Samir and Mubarak still made it to our session today. Super grateful. Thank you so much for taking out the time. I think there is one person. Assalamu alaikum. Not sure who this is, but we're going to begin in the next 5-10 minutes when we have more people. In the meanwhile, if you have any questions, feel free to post them here. Oh, we have 6 people now. Excellent. So we are about to begin in a few minutes. Thank you so much for joining in. We'll be beginning shortly. There's a little ticker which is playing at the bottom of the screen. So if you guys want to look at the itinerary for the whole day, please do feel free to log in. And there are also a list of speakers from the data science, artificial intelligence, engineering, design, and project management tracks. If you wish to book slots for your interviews, please do so. Our slots are open from tomorrow until the 1st of October. You can sign up for 30-minute session and get a one-on-one interview experience with all the industry experts that you would usually have faced. So now we have 10 people. That 10 is a good start. It's a good number. We'll wait for 3 more minutes. Okay, great. I hope we have more people rooting for it. Okay. So whoever is with us right now, आपके कोई भी with पहले से कोई सवाल आपने सोचे हुए अगर होंगे तो आप comment section के ऊपर you can write them. This would be a good time. Any other questions that you have since we're waiting for another 2 minutes? Or you could also introduce yourself to our speakers here, who are Samir and Mubarak. Okay.
Would you like me to introduce myself?
Yes, shortly. And I think let's wait for another 1 minute. So we would like most of our people to catch you introducing yourself. So everybody also do that. We're excited to have both of you on board. And I think this would be a good time. We can start. Yes, Isha? It's been 5 minutes. So, Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you so much for taking out your time. This is a session which will help you understand कि first impressions क्या होते हैं और उनकी क्या what is the power of it, why it's important, and how you can work on it. And if you work on it, how far it will get you in your careers. So we have 2 exceptionally talented speakers on board with us, and I would like each of them to introduce themselves, and we will begin right after. So maybe any one of you could go ahead.
I'll go first. Thank you so much for having us, Huda. My name is Mubarak Siddiqui. I've been practicing as a lawyer since 2008. I started off working at law firms, Ria Barker Gillette, then which is now Ria Barker Gillette, then Ordignum. I then started my own startup as well in the middle. Exited that by selling my shares to my co-founders. I've since then moved on to worked at Baikia, Sarmayakar, which are a startup and which is again a PC firm. In the space currently, I'm practicing independently and advising both startups and investors in this space.
Thank you, Mubarak. So Mubarak has a lot of startup experience as well, and I think one of the ways that we do create opportunities is we get really short windows to speak to people, and they are very busy and they don't have a lot of time. So you have to you basically have a few seconds to get another chat with them. So I think Samir is also someone who's coming from the startup ecosystem. He's actually is the VP of a company, and I would like him to introduce himself so I can take
Yeah,
yeah.
sure. So, thank you for inviting, first of all. My name is Samir Ahmed Khan, and I am the CEO at Social Champ. Social Champ is a social media scheduling platform. Uh, for in my past, it's been 12 years that we graduated from Karachi University, have a degree in computer science. I also speak on behalf of Microsoft, Nokia. Currently, I am Facebook developer lead in Karachi. Um, and since there could be software engineers, I'm a full stack, mean stack developer. I also speak on social media, digital training. So previously, I've started three startups and it did not work out. Social Champ is my fourth startup. So yeah, it's going really good these days.
Okay, thank you
And
so
we
much,
take
Samir.
advice from Mubarak. We take
Yeah,
advice, legal
we
advice
take
from Mubarak.
yes. So thank you, Samir, and thank you, Mubarak. So you can see that both of them, we're all from the startup ecosystem. And as I was saying earlier before, कि यहाँ पे time is of the essence, and you have to choose your words very carefully, and you have to create windows of opportunities for yourself. तो हम वो कैसे कर सकते हैं? हम सबसे पहले we have to have create an impression which would make people want to talk more about us. तो first impression की जब हम बात करते हैं, what does it mean for the both of you is what we want to understand. कि जब हम लोग बोलते हैं कि इतने सारे लोग इसके बारे में बात कर रहे होते हैं कि अच्छा impression create करो, वो होता क्या है? What do people understand from this? So maybe Mubarak and Samir, any one of you can comment.
I'll start. Uh, no, that's a good question. I think there are multiple things around it, right? सबसे बड़ी चीज़ ये है कि लोगों की टाइम लिमिटेड होता है हर किसी के पास. और दूसरी चीज़ ये है कि if you are meeting someone with a certain context being, say, for example, you're applying for a job,
Yeah.
and the potential employer or the person interviewing you is meeting you amongst many different people, right? If you say there's 100 applicants on the same job, now, as human beings, our brains are riddled with bias. Our brains have all different things. किसी को लगता है कि यार अगर एक बंदा है जिसने ऐसी जगह पे काम किया हुआ है या इस रोल में काम किया हुआ है तो वो कभी फिट नहीं होगा. Or they might think if you worked at a certain company or a certain business, you would be the perfect fit in the world, right? So those are very individual biases which could be very far from reality. A first impression is crucial because if someone's considering 100 candidates for one role, they are going to they can't interview all 100 or take them all through a very long drawn process. They will only be able to select. There has to be a filtering criteria. So the first impression is what will significantly weigh on their mind and when they are making those decisions. They could be wrong as well. They could be right. But if you're someone who wants to navigate through that very practically, either you can take a position कि यार ये तो गलत बात है और कुछ चीजें शायद शुरू से ही गलत हो. I mean, there's this discriminatory hiring practices जहाँ पे लोग कहते हैं, oh, if it's a female, don't want to hire them because ये मसला है वो मसला है. That is something that you can take a principled stance against. But other things, when you're trying to be practical, I think it's very important to understand कि वो शख्स के लिए इस रोल को फिल करने के लिए क्या क्वालिटीज आप में होनी चाहिए. And then you need to think about how you can at least convey some of those qualities in the first impression. That's why I think it's very crucial.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So you would say that this is something which it's a psychological sort of an advantage which stands out in front in other people's mind. Like, there's so many all the people who are hiring you are already going through like hundreds of applications, and they're so busy. So you think that this could be like a quick refresher in their mind. कि ये क्या थी इसकी, what did this person? But would you say, like, what is it about the first impression which stays? What do you mean by it? Is it like the way you made a connection with the speaker, or is it the way you stood out? What is it? Samir, would you elaborate more on that?
Yeah, so I think it's Mubarak highlighted great points. I think first impression could be, let's say आप जाते हो एक इंटरव्यू के लिए, राइट? बल्कि आप एक डॉक्टर के पास जाते हो और वो
Yeah.
डॉक्टर का आप बीमार हो लेकिन डॉक्टर के पास जा रहे हो और उसका मुंह बना हुआ है, ही इज नॉट स्माइलिंग, ही इज पिस्ड ऑफ, राइट? और वो जैसे ही आप जा रहे हो आपने उसको बीमारी बताना ही नहीं लगे, वो लिखना स्टार्ट कर दिया उसने और दवाई दे दी आपको, पूरी बीमारी सुनी हुई दवाई दे दी, राइट? सो दिस इज लाइक हाउ यू बी पिस्ड ऑफ कि इसने मेरी सुनी भी नहीं है बात. So usually the first impression is how friendly you are and what smiling, how is your face, right? Even if you're stressed up, right? आप जाते हो जैसे interview के लिए. So are you with a happy face, with a smiling face or not? Is it refreshing or not? What vibes are you giving? Is it positive or negative, right? So
Yeah.
that's the first thing that will make it kind of friendly. And second would be okay, what powers do you bring up? Like, what's your secret weapon? Like, there are 100 candidates with Mubarak said. तो उसमें आपके पास differentiating क्या है कि उसको 100 के बाद आपकी बात याद रह जाए. They remember you, the interview, that what they had with you, right? It could be your portfolio is very strong, or the portfolio that you created is very strong, or you said that you have done some evangelist work जहाँ पे आपने speaker बने थे Microsoft के लिए, कभी Nokia के लिए काम किया आपने, उनके लिए sessions किए. So that's secondary, right? So first is what vibes do you give and how friendly you are. That's really important, right? How, what attitude do you have? Are you friendly? Are you listening or not? And then it could follow, okay, what's your portfolio? I think this leaves a good impression. Okay, it at least makes you remember. So the thing is that, out of those 100 interviews, if somebody asks an interviewer, okay, did XYZ give an interview? So they might not remember your name, but they might remember, यार इसने हाँ इसने ये किया था और ये बड़ा इस positive energy थी, इसका attitude अच्छा था, it was humble, he was learning, he was ready to learn and go beyond, and there was a spark in his eyes that he wanted to learn something. Yeah.
Yes. So it reminds me like for our candidates as well. अगर किसी ने Suits का show देखा है, so there was like Harvey Specter hiring. सबके पास इतना अच्छा candidates है. You have like Harvard degree. Everybody is just top notch, and then he's going. Candidate after candidate, but he's really not finding what he needs, and then comes in Mike, and then he just solves a problem for him, and he's so present and mindful and focused that stays with Harvey Specter. So I'm not sure आप लोग में से कौन कितने लोग suits देखता है, but that's what we are getting at कि it's the concept is not really talked about in Pakistan, लेकिन ये maybe it's about creating that human connection which tells people that you're going to solve problems for them, you're going to add value to them, and it comes with there's an art of creating it. So a lot of people think that there are some people who have a lot of charisma and they walk in and they do it, but what we're trying to get here is that that's something which we can help you build, and you can also create that for yourself. So we've spoken a little bit about okay, what are first impressions for us. So it could be a human connection, it could be the way somebody spoke, anything which made the right person recall you at the right time, right? So let's talk more about the power of creating strong first impressions. So we've talked about it generally, but I would like both of you to draw some examples from your own life where you thought that you created an opportunity for yourself just because you were in the right moment at the right time and you created the right impression. So any one of you can go.
Okay, I'll start.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I feel like my entire career, I'm really lucky to be at the right place at the right time in terms of just
Yeah.
this system. So it wasn't a job interview as such, but it was when you talk about first impressions, and I know this is about getting hired, but any sale that you do in life, whether you're selling to a customer, whether you're selling to an investor, whether you're selling to even trying to get people on board, it's first impressions, and these things matter, right? These conversations matter. One thing that I would say is my biggest learning out of all of this is that um, it's easy when you're applying for jobs and when you don't have a job to want to game the system and somehow get this job. कि यार मैं किसी तरह से ये बोल देता हूँ, वो बोल देता हूँ, ये सब चीज़ें अच्छी लगेंगी और मैं बस इस तरह की एक टोपी पहना के नौकरी ले लेता हूँ. The point is, let's think about it this way. If you're starting working around 22, 23, you literally have 30 years of top work that you will do, right? So you'll work up till like 55, 56, after which you want to be entering into retirement and doing things that you want as opposed to be working the grind, right? Now, अगर आपके पास 30 साल हैं, good years to work, every 3 years is 10%, right? सो अगर आप 10% अगर आपकी ज़िंदगी का आप कहीं पे लगाने को तैयार हैं, that decision has to be based on you wanting to be there as much. So don't treat the interview process as something that is a test of whether you can be here or not. The interview process has to be a test of whether you should be here or not. ठीक है. So your first impression should be very authentic. It should be about who you are as a person. It should clarify what values are very important to you. See, for me, someone like me, for me, freedom is a very important value. If I'm entering into a role where my freedom will be restricted, I don't want to have that role. And it's best for me and the interviewer to know that upfront. Otherwise, we'll be both wasting our time. So approach this process and this opportunity you have, the time that you're spending to explore a potential company that you will work at or a partner you will have. Use this time to really understand each other. And my biggest advice is always to be authentic, be yourself, things that are important to you. And yeah, it's just that when I talk about presenting a certain version is in a first impression is that highlight the parts about your experience yourself that are important for this particular role. And make sure that the person does not have to meet you the third time to find those things out. Because if it's a relevant experience you've had, say even if it was an internship that you did but is relevant for this context, say it in the first time so that the person has more information about you to make this decision whether they should carry this thing forward with you or not.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yes, Samir, any thoughts that you'd like to add?
I think Mubarak summed up very well. Your professional experience and everything that you need to be authentic. Or usually what we see in hiring is that when we get resumes of mostly of software developers, उनके सीवी के अंदर वो लेट्स से उन्होंने एक कोर्स ले लिया 2 घंटे का जिसमें वो लेट्स से जावास्क्रिप्ट के बारे में पढ़ रहे हैं, दे लर्निंग जावास्क्रिप्ट. अगले दिन जाके वो रेज्यूमे में भर देते हैं दे नो जावास्क्रिप्ट, राइट. और इस तरह वो रेज्यूमे के अंदर ना 50-60 लैंग्वेजेस आ जाती हैं, दे नो दीस 60 लैंग्वेजेस. आई मीन यू आस्क अबाउट इट, दे लाइक हाँ हमने ये 5 साल पहले किया था, याद नहीं आ रहा, हमने ये कॉन्टेक्स्ट था, राइट. सो बीइंग ऑथेंटिक इज लाइक in this software development world that you need to tell what you are good at, what's your level on that. And especially when you go to the portfolio where you put your portfolios, तो वहाँ पे ये होता है कि let's say you made maybe a single login page or login button at the website of let's say Kareem, ठीक है. And now you might say कि मेरा portfolio में Kareem है. It doesn't mean that you created entire Kareem, right? So what work did you do in that? So, usually in writing a portfolio, then saying, yeah, I did this work, the front end, etc. This makes you more authentic. Yeah, you know what? This is the specific work you have done. So you can then quote bigger projects. Yeah, I have done these many projects, and this is the work that I have done. Right? So it makes you more authentic. Yeah, he's telling the truth even before I'm seeing you as an interviewer, right?
Yeah.
So this kind of helps being an authentic thing. But again, having a first impression that is like how much value or how much being friendly human connection you're leaving kind of starts from at home, right? जब आप घर बाहर से काम से कहीं ऑफिस से या फिर यूनिवर्सिटी से घर आते हो, and then the moment you enter your home, what exact impression do you have? Are you pissed off because आपका दिन अच्छा नहीं रहा and you start being pissed off at your mom and dad or maybe your loved ones, right? तो वो एक आपका everyday single task है कि आप रोजाना किस तरह होते हो. And this is something that you value, you learn, and when you go to an interview, you will carry that with you. Whenever you're ready, whenever you're pissed off, it doesn't affect your mood. It doesn't affect your interview. So I think that starts kind of practice from home. How much can handle this.
Yes, thank you so much. So, like Mubarak and Samir has spoken about two very important things. That being authentic is so important because whenever you're meeting someone, you might say a lot of things and people might not react to it. But human beings know, they're intelligent enough to know if whatever you're projecting is the truth or not. And that's what stands out. And like authenticity will actually determine is also going to be good for you because you can have an honest conversation कि मुझे इतना आता है या मुझे इतना सीखना है. And if you're talking and saying that and you're being honest about it, there's so many opportunities, and I've seen it in a lot of hiring processes as well. There are people who might not have the right number of experience or the right number of skill set, but if you can show me that you're really serious about this, you're going to work hard and you are going to learn, then that's what most companies need, because everything is really rapid, it keeps changing. So a lot of people need people who can be honest about what they know, what they don't know, and what they want to do, and communicate it with people. And another important thing which came about is that it's not like a one day thing that you can go and do and give a performance in an interview. It's about being who you are on a day to day basis as well. So you need to build that honesty and integrity into your day to day life, कि जब आप लोगों से बात करें तो वो आप पे भरोसा कर सके, आपको ट्रस्ट कर सके, और आपको responsibilities assign कर सके, because at the end of the day you need to be a reliable resource. So thank you so much for that. Let's have another question. While we were talking about this, we had two more questions, and I'd like to take them before we go into another question amongst ourselves. Shadiyat Ikhlas has said, how I'd like to know how you have created an opportunity, especially during mini panic attacks or social anxiety. So for people who have social anxiety, how can they create, a good impressions? What do they focus on? So would you like to add something there, both of you?
Yeah. See, here's the thing. Self-awareness is probably the first step, right? When you know that what you have social anxiety, or particularly do not enjoy dealing with a lot of people or bigger crowds,
Yeah.
I presume that you will not be applying for a job that requires you to deal with a lot of people and a lot of big crowds, right? And that would be the optimal thing for you to do. There's a big misconception that we start off with early in life, which is around improving our weaknesses, things that we are not good at. We need to improve that. And sure, in a lot of things, that's good advice. Mostly for me, I think the more important thing you can do is you can double down on your strengths. Things that you're really good at. Instead of trying to improve every weakness, just make your strengths even better, and just focus on those. Because say if you have social anxiety, you could either sit there and work on social anxiety, which you should generally, but say for a job, and then work on a business development role where you will fix this, etc. I wouldn't do that. I would go with what you want. And I think if a particular employer is a good partner, they would recognize that this is not something that would create an impediment in your ability to perform, and that should be fine. You might be it might be helpful to say these things out a little bit up front, and saying that the kind of things you do and do not enjoy, if your employer knows, then that's fine. Again, the idea is for you to find the right place for you to work at, and that's why being authentic is so important. And to be very honest, if it was easy being authentic, then everyone would be doing it. There's a reason why authenticity and trust is low, is because it's harder to do, and you will end up losing some opportunities that might seem the best on the outset but may not be the best for you generally. So it will help you save more time later, but it's important to be genuine and authentic upfront. And if you have social anxiety, I think you should tell them, and I think you should be honest about it. And then obviously focus on roles that do not exploit or do not make it worse for you.
Yeah. So would you say, Mubarak, then, maybe when you're during the interview with even your best intentions, there are some people who still get nervous. So do you think, like in the interview, if candidates could just say that, oh, I need a minute, or maybe I need a glass of water, and then I'll talk. So that could also be a good technique. And I've also seen people who do, they just say that, oh, I'm just having a little panic attack, I'll get back to you in a minute or 30 seconds. So it does sort of tell your employer that, okay, you need a minute, and this person is struggling with the communicating right now. But it would be a good way for them to know as well, and it would also like give you a little break where you can calm your nerves. So that could be one trick as well.
Yeah, see,
And yeah,
for me, it's very important to treat it like a conversation.
yeah,
You can't think of it as like an interview. Jahan mein ja raha hu, I'm being. I know it's like that. You're being judged, and it feels like,
yeah,
oh, I'm under the spotlight, and everyone's going to be,
yeah,
and whatever their decision is somehow going to be a reflection on my abilities, or who I am as a person. It's a big thing, right? You're vulnerable in front of someone, and they get to decide whether you're worth it or not. So, but again, your self-worth has to be intrinsic. It's something that you know that you are capable of and not. And the other thing is, it's a conversation with a person. And while I've noticed this, if you're public speaking, if you are in an interview where all the spotlight you are, every second of silence feels like it's a minute, right? And you feel like the people on the other side are far less forgiving than they actually are. Put
Yeah.
yourself in the position. If you are interviewing someone and someone is a little nervous and they need to drink water or they need to just take a step out, you would not be too you won't be too mean about it. You would be more forgiving, and that's just remember that. And again, human beings are not machines, they're not robots, they're not people who will just come in and perform immediately. Some people can, some people can't. And um, human beings are messy. So any employer that you have, or any team that you're going to be a part of, it's very important for them to understand KR. Sure, sometimes people are having a bad day, sometimes they are nervous, sometimes they need 5 minutes, and that's great, because that's okay. And I would expect people to extend the same courtesy to me if I need 5 minutes or if I'm feeling nervous, and we all have. Be more confident about this, because if someone is not understanding this, they're probably not good partners for you to be with for any time of your life.
Yeah. Thank you, Mubarak. Samir, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think so. Mobile's covered it very well. So the one main point is that whoever gets this panic attack, right? They should make sure that, you know what, everybody at some point in life gets nervous, right? They do get panic. Even if I or Mubarak go on a stage with 10,000, 15,000 people watching us, we would get nervous at the start, right? Oh my God, so many people, right? So even if you get interviewed, we get sometimes if we are getting a job, maybe somewhere in which we idolize, कि यार यहाँ Microsoft या Google में interview दे दो मजा आ जाएगा, and we go there and we might get a bit nervous, right? Um,
Yeah.
and if we met our dream idol person, ke Shah Rukh Khan, maybe Imran Khan. If you meet Imran Khan, we would get nervous before speaking to him, right? Oh my God, everybody's watching me, and Imran Khan is watching me, right? मैं क्या बोलूँगा, right? So it comes on how much aware you are, which Mobile said, कि यार, what skills you have, and you need to be confident. You know what? I am the best in this job. I am the best when I speak on this topic. I am the best who can explain what my company is about. I am the best person to tell about myself, right? And also you should know that, you know what, even the suggestion you gave कि बहुत सारे लोग इंटरव्यू के लिए आते हैं, they come to us interview, हमसे कहते हैं ऐसे 1 मिनट दे दें, पानी पानी पी सकते हैं, हम पानी पहले से रखे होते हैं कि हमें पता है कि थोड़ा सा पानी चाहिए होगा, परेशान होंगे, और एम्प्लॉयर नोज कि यार
Yeah.
इसको अभी पैनिक हो रहा है, इसकी ओरिजिनल पोजीशन ये नहीं है, राइट? जो ये बंदा
Yeah.
है वो ये बंदा अभी नहीं है, he's changed up, right? Good employers already know. So there is no reason I haven't seen कि यार मैंने किसी बंदे को नहीं रखा हो because they got a panic attack, right? I know
Yeah.
this person has skills. He's just
Yeah.
panicked because he saw, the company or the people, but he is a good person. So good employer already knows that. Yeah, he is a good person. He got skills, right? So it's just the way you handle that. I think taking a pause, drinking water, doing that stuff, and being confident. Again, you know what? Try to, train your mind. Okay, you know what? I'm the best person who can explain about myself. I have skills, don't panic yet. Oh my God, everybody's watching me. What if my shoelaces are on? Oh my God, what's going to happen? You know what?
Yeah.
Nobody's watching it. You just calm down on that.
Yeah. So thank you so much. So I think it's important to note here that being nervous and having panic attacks is quite normal, and a lot of people, most of us face it. But some of us maybe are better at handling it, and some of us maybe struggle a little bit. But that's not something that you should be concerned about, because a lot of good employers acknowledge it and they give you a moment. And even again, what you can do is, you know that if you're being authentic, you know what you're there for, and what you need to do is just communicate. I think people falter when they're being a little dishonest, and that's what comes about in interviews as well. A lot of interviewers, they say that maybe this person was amazing in their resume, but when we met them, their answers were not crisp. They gave me a lot of fluff. So that comes off when a lot of people are not really being real. So I think being yourself and being honest gives you that confidence as well. Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
So one more thing, sorry, no worry. So also there's one
Yeah.
thing called practice. The more you practice, the more better you get. So most of our, decks that, let's say I'm giving a talk, the first time I create a new deck, I would be nervous.
Yeah.
Even if I've given talks like 100 plus times, right? This is my first deck. I've never done that before. So I might get a little bit nervous, right? But if I do the same deck, pitch deck, the 50th time, the 51 time, I would be more confident, right? So it takes a lot of practices to be perfect at your deck, right? The same goes for anything in life. Like it could be interviews. If you're giving the first interview of your life, you might be nervous, and it's always okay, right? Uh, it's a quote that if you're nervous means you're serious about the job, right? I've seen people who are not even nervous, right? Being nervous is a good trait. There are people who come from a marketing senior position and they're not nervous and they're too braggy about stuff they've done. Like they talk a lot, but being in knowledge and technical information, they have kind of very less information, so they kind of misguide the stuff, right? They act confident by sharing a lot of stuff, but they're misconfident. So practice
Yeah.
makes it more better.
Yes, practice makes it more better. I completely agree with that. So there are so many times, just a little more about that note, that whenever you're walking into in an interview, you also have all these exercises where you keep practicing and you also catch yourself. So there's another exercise where spread your arms really far and then you feel like you own the room. You do that for 1 minute, and when you go, your body language improves. You could be a completely introvert person otherwise, but what you project there, your confidence, it comes. So there are tricks that you can tricks that you can apply. So with practice, you could stand in front of a mirror and talk to yourself. So whatever works, and these are things that people do. So if you do them, then you can also come across as a more confident and authentic person. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more. I want to talk a little bit more about these tips and tricks, and how do you, if you were to tell someone into creating a strong first impression into actionable steps, what would how would you tell them?
So typically, I think there are certain things that you can just predict कि ये तो बात होनी है, right? Like you can predict that people are gonna ask about who you are, right? What your
Yeah.
life story is, and just remember that people generally, all of us included, have short attention span. They lose your attention. They lose their attention in I think you have 2 minutes of really having them focus in the beginning. If they lose that focus, then they might just not be interested overall, and that's a very human thing. We're all like that. Even when we're listening to, say, watching a new movie song, we'll give it 15, 20 different types of minutes and different periods of our attention. So remember that human attention is very hard to capture for too long. And we're in a generation where we have Facebook, Instagram. We just like to swipe through things and scroll through things and need instant gratification immediately, bar jaake. So just remember that. So having your own storyline, thodi crisp, understanding, learning how to introduce yourself and why you are, say, within that storyline, building in the qualities or things that you want to highlight about yourself that are relevant. That's a good exercise. And again, like Samir said, you can only do this if you practice it, right? You can't do it. It just won't come to you. You can't think हाँ मैं वही वाली बात है कि मैं सारा साल नहीं पढ़ूंगा और एग्जाम के बाद जाके वो करूंगा, right? You need to literally. And for me, the biggest thing is writing. You could have a lot of thoughts in your head. When you write it down, you'll realize how little you knew about those things. So write those things down, and the more clarity with which you can write, the better you have. So write a narrative, a personal story about yourself. Realize what things you want to add, what you don't want to add. Remove all the unnecessary things that you think are not important. So I played chess for Pakistan when I was under 14. So I was in the Pakistan team and I played the Asian under 14 championship. This is something that I would highlight in certain areas or in responses to certain questions, but it's not the first thing I would tell about myself, right? Or within the first 2 minutes, I would not disclose this information about myself. So and your story or your narrative would have to change. And say if I was working with something that was related to a super analytical role, if I was working or applying for a role which involved some sort of sport, some sort of long-term thinking, strategic thinking, I would throw this in. But if I'm applying for a marketing role, this is not really important achievement in my life, right? If I'm applying for a marketing role, I'd speak about other things, and I'd speak about so it's a you have to craft that, and you have to make an effort before the conversation. If you want it to be a meaningful conversation, make an effort before and just think about it. I'm not saying you need to do X, Y, Z, बस थोड़ा सोचें कि जो मुझसे बात करने वाला है वो बंदा कौन है, जिस कंपनी में मैं जाने वाला हूँ वो कंपनी क्या करती है, and genuinely have questions के what will you be doing on a day-to-day basis? What will you be doing? What's your growth like over here? People
Yeah.
want ambitious people on their team. A good team would want other people who are ambitious, because if you're not ambitious, then how will you be able to help meet me my ambitions, right? So, or you need to be thoughtful about how you want. So make the conversation thoughtful. Put actual thought and effort into it, and I think these are very actionable things you can do. Good research, good and prepare a list of questions for yourself and have a crisp narrative about yourself, or at least questions that you can predict. उनके बारे में एक crisp answer कर लें, भले एक piece of paper पे बैठ के लिख लें या phone पे type कर दें. Put that into words and you'll realize how unclear or how jumbled up your thinking is. And just that will help you clear things out and speak it out loud. So
Yeah.
you shouldn't feel like an idiot once you speak it out loud. And I would say these are all small things, and with practice you will be able to create a great impression in most interviews.
Okay, great. So basically, so being authentic is great, but you also need to think about these things from before, because you don't also want to go in just being yourself and winging it. You need to be crisp, right? So what you need to do is think about the situations, and when you do, you put yourself in the situations जो आपको डे टू डे मिलेंगी, जो आपको काम करना है, जैसे आपको रहना है, तो उससे आपको एक विजन मिलेगा. सो वंस यू हैव अ विजन, यू कैन इजीली इंटरनलाइज इट, और वो खुद ब खुद आप उस तरह से एक्ट करना शुरू हो जाते हैं. So that's a very good advice, Samir. Would you like to add something to it? Okay,
Yeah, sure.
how do you?
So
Go ahead. Yes. What is your recipe of creating a good, strong impression? Yeah.
So I think one point which Mubarak highlighted was you do a research, you analyze where you're going, right? And I think
Yeah.
this plays a very good part in giving the first impression. A lot of times, when let's say I'm going for an interview, or I expect somebody who's coming to me, they
Yeah.
Google about the company, they Google about what Social Champ is. Is it a marketing company, or is it a scheduling platform? Because some people come and they say आप agency हैं, आप marketing agency तो नहीं, agency हैं आप लोग. Some कहते हैं कि आप software हैं. So they didn't Google it, right? So it's very good that you Google some about the company, and to stop to lessen the anxiety, you can also Google here who are the directors of the company, who might be taking your interview, what's their persona like, what's their background, what's their experience. You can all do that on LinkedIn, right? So when you go for an interview, and you can always pre-imagine, in your imagination, okay, you're walking in, you see these people, they have these backgrounds, and so you can actually simulate that kind of interview in your head. Yeah, these could be the questions. And then again, what Mobile said was that when you go for an interview, you need to be clear what you need from that company, right? So the best thing could be that figure out 3 things that are very important for you for your growth in your career. It could be anything. It could be money, it could be good environment, it could be your learning capabilities at that office, right? Some people love to get challenges in a company, some people do not. They want to have a chill life in office, right? So ये कुछ भी हो सकता है. It's based on each perception. So the impression first could be, let's say मैं जा रहा हूँ एक इंटरव्यू के लिए, मैंने देख लिया, गूगल कर लिया कौन लोग इंटरव्यू लेंगे, क्या लेंगे, मैं गया इंटरव्यू के लिए, मैंने फिगर आउट किया यार ये लोग इन्होंने ये प्रोडक्ट बनाया है, या फिर इन्होंने इस फीचर पे काम किया हुआ है. So in my interview, I try to bring it up कि यार what, I have skills in Node.js technology, and I've seen that this is the product that you made, and I really like that product, but I think this could be improved in this manner. This gives a very good impression कि यार इसने हमारे में Google भी search भी किया है, analyze भी किया है, and then he's kind of highlighting the problem, or maybe he's just highlighting that he loved the stuff that we did with the technology, right? It gives a great experience that this guy's already done his homework on the company, rather than somebody telling, yeah, आप लोग किस project पे काम करते हैं, अच्छा यहाँ पे इस पे काम होता है नहीं होता. So, a lot of information is public, right? So, person who does this kind of leaves a very good impression on us. कि यार चलो इसने कुछ तो इसको company का कुछ तो पता है. Apart from how skillful he is, how happy he is, how human connection he is, that he has done his homework, he has paid some time to invest in this interview.
Okay, great. So you would also align on the fact that somebody who comes in with a lot of research and questions. So basically, whatever information there is out there, they know it. They reach out to you with more original questions, which show them that this is maybe this is something that you didn't also think about. So those are the people that you would stand out for you in that way. We have a question that we would also like to take in the middle from Saqib Ali. He is asking how to manage language barriers. Say employer starts in English and you know that you can explain in Urdu better. So
Well, the thing is, you again need to see how important this is to the employer, right? If the employer is if your role does not involve you speaking in English all the time, then use your Urdu language. You need to communicate effectively, right? Or you need the employer to understand a certain concept. एंड अगर मैं भी यहाँ पे हम बैठ के बात करें तो हम वहाँ पे उर्दू में वो चीज़ें स्ट्रेस करते हैं जो हमें लगता है हम ज़्यादा अच्छी तरह से उर्दू में कर सकते हैं, इंग्लिश में वो चीज़ें जो विच वी फील लाइक वी कैन एक्सप्लेन इट इंग्लिश बेटर. सो माई पॉइंट इज गेट योर पॉइंट अक्रॉस एंड if your role does not require you to be speaking in English, say for example you're not working at a call center where you have to speak to US based clients and all of that stuff, if your role does not involve it, then your employer should not care about whether you have. See, think of yourself as the employer. अगर आपको चाहिए बेस्ट शख्स एक काम करने के लिए, आप देखेंगे कि उस काम करने के लिए क्या स्किल सेट बहुत ज़रूरी है. Now, communication, I feel like, is important for most things. And if you're going to be communicating with people who do not speak in English, then you not speaking in English is completely fine. तो आप उस तरह के रोल के लिए अगर आप अप्लाई कर रहे हैं तो आप फील फ्री टू स्पीक इन उर्दू. एंड इफ दैट्स एन इशू, और अगर एक एम्प्लॉयर को एक ऐसा शख्स चाहिए जिसने कभी किसी से इंग्लिश में बात नहीं करनी लेकिन इंटरव्यू में उसको नहीं इंग्लिश में बात करना बहुत ज़रूरी है, you're at the wrong employer. You're speaking to the wrong person who does not get it, and they will have other petty requirements that you will just have to do. Now, I'm not saying कि अगर आपके पास नौकरी नहीं है और आप अगले महीने का रेंट नहीं पूरा हो रहा तो आप इतने पिकी हो चीज़ों के बारे में. Sure, you might have to sometimes in life bite the bullet and do what's required to do because we all have to pay bills. But generally, when you're looking for a long-term position, then do this, right? And even the earlier point that we were talking about, in terms of quality of questions that you have, these things are some questions you will ask directly, some things you will just pick up. कि अगर इसको मेरी उर्दू बोलने से इतना मसला है, even though मुझे कहीं ज़रूरत नहीं है उर्दू बोलने की, then why this seems off. Other than that, having questions shows how engaged you are and how seriously you take these things and how seriously you take this role. You're not someone who's just there and like अच्छा जी बस मैं अपने बारे में बताता हूँ, अल्लाह करे नौकरी मिल जाए. You like यार ये team member भी is just there looking for a short time thing, next time वो कहीं और मिल जाएगी. So engagement when all will come with these things, and again, be authentic and be comfortable. That if that means you have to speak in Urdu because that's the way you communicate.
yeah, and also we have to look at English as a language, so it doesn't really tell a lot about you to the right people, and you should also treat it as a skill. If you think that, again, like Mubarak said, it's important for your role, then pick it up and learn it and practice it. So it's you just have to have a mindset of growth in terms of which allows you to see कि अच्छा ठीक है, this is what I need to learn and I learn it. Is as simple as that. And Samir, do you have any comments to add on to this specifically?
Yeah, I think I agree with Mubarak, but there are sometimes you need to also greatly know that would you require English or not in this job role, right? Because a lot of software developers think that what, English is not required, which is true if you're in an initial stage, if you're a junior position, right? I know a company who didn't hire a senior software developer because he could not speak in English, and because the mindset of that company was that what, I need to put this software developer direct with the client so that they can speak in English and they can identify problems and issues. And that employer will be representing the company. And that company had 500 to 600 employees, right? It's not a startup. So I know the guy got rejected and this was the reason he got. So he said, oh my God. And he didn't understand, the employer was keeping asking, they kept talking in English, but he Urdu mein jawab deta raha. He didn't figure out that they wanted to, get English out of him. And he just kept on answering in Urdu, right? So I think it's very important. But if you're in a junior position, software developer, you can go along with skills, right? अभी हमें नहीं चाहिए English. और let's say it's a product company और आपका अपना ही company है जो अपना ही product है, कोई interaction with the client नहीं है international. I think it's better कि आपको उर्दू की जरूरत ही नहीं है, हम तो skill set देखते हैं. But again, like if you're marketing, if your role involves that posting and communicating people on Facebook, right? Interaction. So you need to have very good English क्योंकि वैसे ही आपका एक label आता है कि you're from the Pakistan, and that name that you have, then you need to be really good in English. So I think it really depends on what job you're applying for, but it is sometimes very crucial sometimes.
Yes. Yes. So, Shadiyat, I think Shadiyat Ikhlas, if I'm pronouncing your name right. ये उनका कहना है कि not everyone has the privilege or access to learning languages, especially with the schooling system. It isn't that simple for many people. So I'd like to share a story here. It was through one of my projects, and my project took me to one of the areas in Gadab near Balochistan. And I met about 75 students there. और उन लोगों के पास बेसिकली सिर्फ बेसिक नीड्स होती है, लेकिन 75 बच्चों में से 4 बच्चे ऐसे थे जो कि एक्सेप्शनल. सो दिस प्रोजेक्ट वाज अबाउट गेजिंग कि कोई अगर हम उनको कोई टेक स्किल सिखाते हैं, तो जिन लोगों ने कभी कंप्यूटर नहीं देखा या अंग्रेजी नहीं सीखी, तो उन लोगों को हम ये कैसे सिखा सकते हैं, राइट? इज दैट इवन पॉसिबल? तो हम जब वहां पे हम लोग ने बच्चों से बात की, तो हम लोग ने ये देखा था, 2 बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग चीजें सामने आई थी. एक ये कि आपकी कुछ बच्चे उसमें से ऐसे थे जो कि सिर्फ अंग्रेजी ही सीखने के लिए अपनी छोटी सी इलाके से 4 घंटे का सफर करके शहर में आके अंग्रेजी की क्लास लेते थे 1 घंटे की, फिर 4 घंटे लेके वापस जाते थे. तो बहुत मुश्किल होता है फॉर मैनी ऑफ अस. वी हैव अ लॉट ऑफ डिफिकल्टीज, लेकिन दिस इज जस्ट कमिंग फ्रॉम एक्सपीरियंस के डिस्पाइट हैविंग दैट, अगर आपके पास एक माइंडसेट होता है कि मेरा ये गोल है और मैं ये अचीव करूंगा, फिर मैं ये सोचूंगा कि मैं कैसे करूंगा, तो आप वो फिर भी कर सकते हैं. इट माइट नॉट बी ईजी फॉर यू, इट माइट बी वेरी डिफिकल्ट फॉर यू, बट देयर आर वेज. और उसमें ये भी देखा था कि जो बच्चे वो लोग कर पाते हैं, उनकी जिंदगी में कोई ना कोई एक गाइड या मेंटर होता है जो उनको बोलता है कि बिलीव इन योरसेल्फ, और वो खुद भी अपने आप को समझ सकते हैं. तो जो बातें अभी हमारी इंटरव्यू में बहुत सारे सामने आई थी, दैट आई हैव सीन इन रियल लाइफ. तो उसके ऊपर तो मेरा यही कमेंट है कि प्रिविलेज बन सकता है, लेकिन प्रिविलेज नहीं भी बन सकता. तो अगर आप इसको ये देखेंगे कि मेरे पास करीबी मुझे इंग्लिश सीखनी है, मैं यहाँ से सीख सकता हूँ, तो मे बी मैं जाके वहां पे जाके इवन मैं थोड़ा वक्त काम कर सकता हूँ ताकि मुझे अंग्रेजी सीखने को मिल जाए. That I've seen people do that. तो ये वो वाली केसेस है जिसके बारे में हमने कोई मूवी और ड्रामा नहीं देखा, बट हमने रियल लाइफ एग्जांपल्स देखी हैं. और ये वो लोग भी हैं जो लोग इंटीरियर सिंध या इलाकों से आके अब वो फेसबुक में भी काम कर रहे हैं, जिनके पास कोई एजुकेशन नहीं थी और वो उस बैकग्राउंड से भी बिलोंग नहीं करते, लेकिन उन्होंने उसको टेक्निकली इसको ब्रेक डाउन किया कि मुझे ये करना है और मैं ये ऐसे करूंगा और मैं ऐसे कर सकता हूँ. सो हैव अ प्लान एंड डोंट लेट दैट प्रिवेंट यू from doing it, because your perspective, your mindset really matters here. So that is my comment. But what about you guys, Samir Ahmed and Samir and Mubarak? Would you like to say something on this?
I'd add something. No, देखें, privilege related barriers are very real. बहुत सीधी सी बात है कि अगर मेरे पास लाइफ में अर्ली ऑन वो अपॉर्चुनिटीज का एक्सेस नहीं था, तो नहीं था, it will really impact or set me back in certain areas compared to someone who did have access. So privilege comment, I would say, is a very real comment, and it's a real issue. Now, unfortunately, you have to do with what you have, and like you said, now अब नहीं थी privilege, आज है, आज आप एक certain situation में बैठे हैं. Now you have to gear towards what, again, focus on what your strengths are, focus on the things that you know. So a lack of privilege exposed you to a different life than someone who was more cushioned, or someone who had a more privileged life. Now focus on those things. See how you can exploit that, or how you can create value out of those experiences, those lived experiences that you have and the other person doesn't. Now, if you are someone who grew up in a certain segment जहाँ पे जी आप एक certain class के साथ deal कर रहे थे, या आप एक certain category of customers के साथ deal कर रहे थे. For example, आप एक distributor के पास काम कर रहे थे और आप जाके retailers को डबल रोटी बेच रहे थे, because you did not have the opportunities that other people did. You still have a very valuable experience that someone who is starting that company in disrupting all the retail supply chain would not, because you've actually have the experience of speaking to so many different retailers at that level. So recognize the value around that, recognize how you can capture value in this, and how this could be your strength. So sit there and really focus on your strengths and triple down on them, and of course try to acquire the skills that you think you need. Still, it's harder, but you can make something out of where lack of privilege took you. You can see those experiences, and you can really make something out of them.
Thank you, Mubarak. So I think it's important for us to not get discouraged by what we don't have, but make the best of what we have. तो अगर आपके पास आपको लगता है कि you don't have enough command over a certain language that you'd like to focus on highlighting your other core strengths that people might not have with your experiences. So that's very important. This was very, I think, insightful for me. I hope this was insightful for all our audience members. Agar we still have a few more minutes before wrapping up, I would like you guys to take this opportunities to engage. कि आप जितने भी स्पीकर्स यहाँ पे मुबारक से सबीर है उनके साथ आप बात कर सकते हैं. So this would be a good time. If not, then we would like to maybe have some final thoughts from Sameer and Mubarak on maybe maybe like some parting thoughts for our candidates. तो अब अपनी एक grueling interview process से गुजरेंगे. Any thoughts for our Pakistani candidates that you might have, and then we could just call it a day.
I think just to summarize, be authentic, be thoughtful,
Yeah.
and be vulnerable. In the sense that have some comfort with being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Authentic की हमने बात कर ली है, thoughtful की भी हमने बात कर ली है कि look into research things and have a clear reason why you want to join it and why you can improve this organization. I think one guiding principle that really helps me, or at least something that I try to live by, is to contribute more than I complain, and I complain a lot, so I have to contribute more. So the point is कि आपको make sure that have a rule that I really live by. The value that I really live by is that if I'm going to join the organization, for me, my stint there would be successful if I improve the organization in whatever way I could. So थोड़ा सा बेहतर करके जाना है आगे. Whatever it is, however terms you leave gracefully and move on, because you can't have all that anger and resentment in you, and you can't carry that throughout your life. Let it go. But when you're there somewhere, give your 100%, and you will only be able to do that if you have really thought through where is it that you want to be, what value will you add there, and how will that help you. Once you have clarity around these things, everything else will fall into place, right? Yeah. And most people who are looking to include team members are looking for these things, are looking for someone who knows why they're there, why they are part of this, and why they want to be part of this. So that's my advice overall to founders around this.
Great, thank you, Mubarak. What about you, Sameer? Any parting thoughts?
Yeah, I think one more point is that whenever you apply for a job or you're scheduled for an interview, you need to be very professional in responding and being on time. I think I've seen a lot of people who agree for an interview or agree for a test. They really do not come on the time. They're just silent. And then we as a company have to reach out कि भैया आप लोग आ रहे थे कहाँ गए? और फिर कहते हैं अच्छा हमारा तो ये हो गया, कुछ ये हो गया, रीशेड्यूल कर लें. रीशेड्यूल करते हैं. एक दफा ऐसा हुआ कि हमने 3 दफा रीशेड्यूल किया और वो फिर 3 दफा बंदा ही नहीं आया. फिर हमने कहा भाई अब नहीं, इसको ब्लैकलिस्ट ही कर दो इसको. और ये कोई पहली दफा नहीं होता, ये इस बहुत ज्यादा होता है. If you ask any HR person, the issue of when you interview somebody, when you get somebody on call कि आज का interview है, I know if I have 6 interviews, 6 interviews होंगे, बाकी नहीं होंगे मेरे, right, उस दिन में, क्योंकि मुझे पता है कि बाकी 4 तो नहीं आएंगे. There's a ratio of it. So, and again, just understand that learning is a process in life. It's not an event. कि कि आपने कहा कि यार मुझे अब आ गया है, अब मुझे बेस्ट हो गया, अब मैं और नहीं सीखूंगा. So you need to be very clear कि what's the skill set that you need to grow in your career. कि यार मुझे अभी development आती है. Next step would be English. Next step would be interacting with people. Next step would be communication skills, giving demos to people, presenting skills, right? You need to have that career path. यार मुझे ये सीखनी है. Then, let's say if I want to learn about financials, so the person who has done MBA has more privilege than I have, right? But I have to learn it. So maybe I'll start कि यार मुझे next point मेरा ये, otherwise I'll be stuck in my career, right? So always remember that learning is a process. Keep going for it.
So thank you so much, Samir, for that. Learning is a process, and I think we have our key takeaways are: be authentic, be yourself, practice, create a vision for yourself, and adopt that image that you want to project. Make it a habit. Live it every day. It's very important. Respect your commitments is very important. Respect each other's time, and don't and focus on your core strength areas and have honest conversations. So this was very insightful, and thank you so much, Mubarak and Samir, for taking out your time and sharing all of that with all our candidates. I think Kashish is also want to share a book that we have displayed for everyone else. And now we're going to move on to our next session, which is the breakout for CV Clinic in a bit. But before that, thank you so much again. And hopefully we'll catch, our community will catch more of you. And everyone, I would like you to maybe, would it be okay for our candidates to reach out to you later and learn more from you? Maybe as your mentor and stuff. So so I think Samir and Mubarak are really warm and friendly and talented individuals, and I've known them for a very long time within the community, and we would like to give back to the community as well as and any opportunity that we get. So thank you so much, and we'll see you.
Hello once again. So,
Hello, so Isha,
would you
Thank
like
you for
to?
having us.
So,
Take
yeah.
care.
So, would you like to drop your LinkedIn links in the comment? That would be great.
Sure, we'll do that. We'll do that.
Okay.
Yes?
Thank you so
Okay,
much.
great.
It was
Thank
a
you
great
for that.
conversation.
Hafiz.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Hafiz.
Thank you.